give some public comment to the committee. Yeah, come on up, and you can we have 4 microphones, so you can come. Sit down. Okay, yes, so Councilmember Mirisch, great to see you here, and you stuck it out from the whole time, so I appreciate your attention.
Thank you, and like you, looking forward to breaking the fast.
Yes.
Philippe's or Langers or something.
That's right.
So here's a perspective of a locally elected official from one of the 87 other cities in Los Angeles County. And I found, although it's long, I found this very interesting. And so my perspective is that if you're looking at simply increasing voter turnout per se, then you really should consider the Australian solution. It's not as bad as Kathy Fung suggested. It has much to recommend itself. At the other end of the spectrum, there's the former Soviet Union system, which you obviously shouldn't consider. But automatic registration and national or state ID cards also have much to recommend themselves. The way I look at it, though, the real challenge is getting informed and active voters, not just increased voter turnout. Though I understand the impact it has, and Senator Allen, you've pointed that out, on the fact that we in Southern California, or specifically LA County, have a lower voter turnout rate than the rest of the state, because it clearly decreases our influence versus Northern California. You simply have to look at the population of Southern California versus the number, the percentage of statewide offices that our residents hold, and ask yourself, when's the last time we had a U.S. Senator from Southern California? So part of the problem, though, in trying to get informed and active voters could be that specific deficiencies in local representation give people the feeling that elections don't matter, or sometimes that the fix is in. One example would be looking at the ongoing quasi-coronation of Kamala Harris as our next U.S. Senator, and all the deal-making and power brokering going on there, both behind the scenes and in broad daylight. Have a look at LA County's government. I mean, it's a supervisorial board ruled by what one former supervisor described as 5 kings, each representing 2 million people. Kings don't really need to get elected, do they? And then here, just sitting in this boardroom, look at the MTA. It's a non-representatively run organization with an annual budget approaching $6 billion, spending tens of billions more of taxpayer dollars, in which over 60% of the county is underrepresented by some 58%. An example of taxation without proportional representation, and what a revolutionary concept. That's not fair. And yes, maybe the growing imbalance, the fact that some now describe California as a one-party state, creates a built-in cynicism. People may actually feel they don't have a choice anymore. So if we're just trying to get people to rubber stamp and legitimize a broken system, well, then go for the Soviet system where people have to vote or else. But if the voters aren't fools, as Professor Sonnenschein said, then really consider going to an Aussie system, because it does have much to recommend it, but you would have to do it in conjunction with campaign finance reform. It needs to really go hand in hand with that. Ultimately, though, if you want to fix voter turnout and encourage or increase the number of informed voters, we need to ensure that people's votes actually matter, that they mean something. In an era in which the money of special interest on both sides of the political spectrum dominate, it's not an easy task. We need to respect local control, and we need to ensure that the little guy or gal actually feels that she's represented. So we need more than cosmetic solutions or happy talk, or even consolidating elections with resulting intra-ballot fatigue. So we do need to increase accessibility. I like the ideas about increased vote by mail. I like the idea of having a sample ballot that you can actually send in and use as the ballot, although sometimes these days people might have difficulty finding a mailbox. And I also think we should look to extended and weekend voting. I also think, as Professor Levinson mentioned, that we should look to online voting. And I understand that there are a number of technological challenges, but I believe those can be overcome, and I believe we have the ability to be trailblazing when it comes to that. And that really, I believe, you could have all sorts of links to information for informed voters would go a long way. So we need to make it convenient for people to vote, but more than that, we need to give them a reason to do so. People need to feel that their vote means something, and that is the true challenge. And that's what I believe we need to tackle, because otherwise, I think what we're really just talking about is which shade of lipstick best suits Porky. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Just on your last point about online voting, I think if we do so much online now, I guess the question that keeps coming up is if the Pentagon, forget about Sony and Anthem and Target, if the Pentagon can be hacked, what confidence do we have that a system of the complexity, the multi-jurisdictional nature, and high stakes of an election will have the security guarantees that we need to make sure that North Korea isn't manipulating our.
That's the challenge, and I understand that we talk about billions of dollars in bank transfers happening online. Well, if you find out there's a mistake there, you can fix it. It's difficult to go back and fix an election. So I understand that's the challenge, but really the life that people lead today in terms of convenience, in terms of, you probably have more people voting online for who wins American Idol than actually vote in some of our elections. If we can tackle that, if we can figure that out, if we can solve that, I think, and I believe that California can be trailblazing when it comes to that, but you've hit the nail on the head as to what those challenges are.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you so much, John. I appreciate you being here. We're next going to hear from Alexis and then Max and AJ Wilmer, from the former member of the Beverly Hills School Board and member of the Los Angeles County Office of Education's Committee on School District Organization. I used to serve with you. Good to see you here, AJ. AJ will be speaking, and I think Peter Choi is here as well. He's going to make comments as well. So if the two of you want to come up, you're very welcome, or you can come up afterwards. All right, so let's hear from Alexis. Nice to see you.
Hi, Chairman Allen. My name is Alexis Aria, a resident of Los Angeles. I'm speaking as an individual, just humbly presenting some simple ideas. Truly grateful for this meeting. I have been a community organizer and a volunteer organizer since 2007, and a general election volunteer since 1992. I was blessed to be trained by some of the most innovative minds on campaign strategy and voter contact, having had contact with tens of thousands of voters. Some observations I made. I noticed that, for example, it's interesting that the gentleman before me mentioned American Idol, because I noticed while I was speaking to the voters that while some voters lacked basic information about U.S. politics, they were thoroughly informed and interested about the candidates on the TV show American Idol, or any other phenomena that had found its way into the minds of citizens through any permeating medium. So the show American Idol, by engaging the public's imagination and also their input and votes, and by using transparency to highlight the multifaceted facts about candidates, had created millions of engaged voters and enthusiastic voters who studied the candidates before voting. So some of the simple ideas I have for educating, engaging, and motivating voters could take place in many venues, namely 2 channels. 1, through introducing legislature to mandate improving the transparency of the elected officials. This could be done by daily or weekly email bulletins and website updates, itemizing their recent votes, their particular reasoning and stance, and other updates needed for the constituents. Number 2, through the local news playing a role to educate and engage the public. Now, this has been my dream for a long time. If TV airtime is not feasible, then we can insist on the local news websites and social media sites to update the constituents on daily happenings in the state capitol and the U.S. Congress for them to be engaged in the votings. At this meeting, we discussed voter turnout in Los Angeles having less percentage than smaller communities.